with a slow motion crew, and we up in our growlings when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding. And I'll be running, possessed by a low, low voodoo. Fired up like a wolf on a full moon. And we're stuck in a la la land. The tides will turn without us. And I'll be killing time like I might be a cartoon. Take it in real life like haiku. I know we got the good vibes when pieces fall right into place.
Hey, what's up guys, Darkkiller here. Today, we're going to be going over the Trickster Tank Gunslinger build. Yeah, that's quite a title, I know, but this one's actually really good, guys. I can't wait to show you. This build will give you a mixture of doing good damage and at the same time being really, really tanky. And I know I've said that before with our other build, but I really mean it this time. You could be standing out in the open, getting shot by ads, eating a burrito while talking to your girlfriend on the phone, and you will still not die. This build really makes this game easy mode. Alright, enough chit chat. If you guys want to be that gunslinging cowboy god that you saw in the beginning, there's going to be one sidearm that you want. The Disintegrator. This first mod, Strings of Gauss, always comes on the weapon, so you don't have to worry about trying to find this one. Shots link up to 5 enemies within a 10-meter radius, dealing 800k damage to each of them. This damage will be higher or lower depending on your level, but 800k is pretty decent damage. The next one, Violent Rupture, I put this one on myself. This is a really good mod, you guys should get it. Shots create a volcanic explosion, dealing up to 1.5 million damage within a 6-meter radius. That is a lot of damage. And the cool thing about this mod is you don't actually have to hit your target. Like, say your target is standing against a wall, if you hit the wall or the floor that's right next to them, it'll still trigger and still hit them. So you could be hit firing and this will still trigger the mod, which is actually really, really cool. And for the last mod, Ultimate Storm Whip. Shots bring down lightning on an enemy, dealing 1.5 million damage. Again, that is really good damage. Now you're gonna need to kind of get a god roll to get this one. For the third mod slot, you're gonna either need to get Violent Rupture or Ultimate Storm Whip to get the most possible damage. Now you don't really need to get these mods, but I found that they're probably the best for like instant damage. You could use something like Claymore or any type of on-shot damage and that'll still work. But if you want the best type of instant damage, this is probably the best roll that you can get. Alright, on to the next weapon, the Guillotine. This is basically the same weapon that we used on our last build, but I got a god roll on it. So, alright, we're going to be using Moaning Winds and Radiation Splash. This is basically the one where you just unload the mag, and every time you swap to this weapon, it'll do a huge burst of damage. I got a god roll on it. I got Clip Combustion for my third mod slot, which does even more damage when you swap to it. Obviously, you don't need the god roll, but if you do get like these specific mods, you're going to be doing the most damage possible. Alright, and for our last weapon, the Messenger. This one you're probably not going to use against ads, like enemies that have small health pools. This one is mostly going to be used for elites and bosses. Now the reason why that is because of the first mod, Dimensional Rockets. Critical shots fire 4 rockets in the direction of 4 enemies, each rocket dealing 1 million damage with a 2-second cooldown. Now you want to use this mod for like large enemies and or bosses slash elites. And why that is because if the enemy is large, each and every rocket is gonna hit that enemy, so you're gonna hit them for 4 million damage. That's a lot of damage. This mod is really good for that. Alright, the next mod, Claymore Torrent. Shots damage 4 enemies within a 6-meter radius, dealing 900k damage. Now the reason we're using this one is because 1, it has a short cooldown, and 2, because it does pretty decent damage, 900k. For the last mod, Ultimate Anomaly Surge. Critical shots spawn an Anomaly Energy Blast that deals 1.1 million damage to enemies within a 2-meter radius. Again, we're using this one because it does a lot of damage and it has a short cooldown. So you don't specifically have to get this mod, just any other mod that does on-shot damage and has a short cooldown, you can use it. But I found that this is one of, if not the best possible role for this type of weapon. Alright, now on to what makes this build super tanky and basically makes you invincible. The Martyr gear set bonus. All damage received by the player becomes a damage over time effect that cannot be removed. So in layman terms, that basically means you cannot be one-shot killed anymore. Now with our other build, we were super tanky, but there were some enemies, specifically the last boss in Trials, that could basically insta-kill you or like one-shot you. Like those axes that spin around the boss, yeah, those did a lot of damage, and there's been like 1 or 2 times where they just killed me instantly, like I could not react. But with this gear set bonus, that is impossible. You have time to pop skills to get your shield and to get your health back. You have time to do it. So that's what makes this build really good. Like I said before, this basically prevents you from being one-shotted or taking huge chunks of damage instantly. It'll just do tick damage equal to the total amount of damage that you've taken. So you have plenty of time to refill your shield or refill your health bar. If you pop your shield while this effect is active, the damage will be transferred to your shield instead. So you could just keep popping your shield for the most part and your health bar won't even be touched. Alright, enough explaining. Alright, for this build, for the Martyr set, you're gonna want the Martyr head, the Martyr chest, and the Martyr leg. Why those pieces specifically? It's because those are the only pieces I could find, honestly. I could not find the hands or the feet. I'm honestly not sure if they exist. But yeah, that's the reason. Okay, the mods on the helmet that I use are Under Pressure. Being afflicted by any status grants 57k armor and 4% resistance every 1 second for 5 seconds. You don't need this mod, but it comes on it, and it is pretty nice. It makes you that much more tanky. The next mod, Cut Them Deep. This mod I found out about recently. I don't know how this passed over my radar, but elites marked by the knife receive 30% more damage. If you use this in conjunction with something like Moaning Winds, elites are going to take a lot more damage. This mod is really good. And for the last mod I have on this, Pain Transfer. This is the mod we used on the other build, and it basically just transfers all the damage you do to other enemies that are afflicted by Time Rift. And yes, I know before you say it, I know this is on the 3rd mod slot, which is completely RNG, but honestly, you can get either Cut Them Deep or Pain Transfer on any of the other armor pieces, and this will still work. Okay, now on my chest piece, the first mod we have is Self-Medication. This one will always come on this chest piece. Increase your max health by 10% when any skill starts its cooldown. Stacks up to 3 times, each lasting 5 seconds. And because our cooldowns are each about 3 to 4 seconds, you can basically always have this on for the most part. Well, not really for the slow trap, but for Time Rift and the Venator's Knife, you can basically have a constant 20% boost to your health and your shield, because your shield scales to your health bar. Alright, this next mod we're using, Emergency Stance. You honestly don't need this one. I was just using this to show like how tanky this build can be. I would say you want Captain Hunter more than anything on this one, because Captain Hunter obviously increases your damage to elites. When you use Moaning Winds, you're going to be doing big hits. But if you get Emergency Stance and Captain Hunter, great, you're going to be super tanky and you're going to be doing a lot more damage to those elites. Alright, onto the legs. The first mod, Damage Absorber, increases your armor by 200k and your resistance by 10%. The armor is based on your level. Basically, this one makes you a lot tankier. I would recommend using this one because obviously we're trying to be as tanky as possible. The next mod we're using, Even Odds. Increase your max health by 10% for each enemy within a 10-meter radius around you. Stacks up to 3 times. So basically, you're always surrounded by enemies, so this is basically a constant 30% extra health and 30% to your shield because, again, your shield scales to your health bar. So this one makes you a lot tankier. Now for this last mod, you don't need it, but if you get it, it is an added bonus. Receive 100% shield whenever your slow trap ends. Again, this one is just to make you tankier. You don't need it, but if you get it, it will make you tankier. Alright, now for the hands, we're going to be using the Trespasser hands, but we're not going to be getting the set bonus because obviously we're not using 3 pieces. But the reason we're using the Trespasser hands is because it has the double time mod on it, which is super important in my opinion. And the first mod, I changed this one to long range. Triples the range of your time rift. This is basically going to let you tag more enemies and let you kill more enemies at the same time. Now for the third mod slot, I know this is RNG, but I got Trample the Weak. This will let you do more damage since time rift affects your enemies with weakness. Alright, now for the last armor piece, the Trespasser boots. The reason we're using this one is because it has 2 of the 3 attributes we want, which are max health and cooldown reduction. But on top of that, it has the weakening zone mod, which basically helps you to do more damage. Like I just said, enemies that have weakness, you do more damage to them. But the mod that I put on this one is the Geiger's Wave. Every enemy affected by the time rift receives the vulnerable status effect, and if you don't know, vulnerable enemies take 15% more damage, so extra damage. The last mod I have on here, honestly, this was completely RNG, but it is a pretty decent mod, I guess. Doubles your armor whenever your health drops below 35%. So, if you want that extra bit of tankiness, this one is nice to have, but obviously it's not necessary. Okay, really quickly, here is the skills we're going to be using. I'm going to explain them really quickly. The Venator's Knife. Every enemy that is affected by this will receive 100% extra damage on the first hit. So if you use Moaning Winds or something like that, they're going to take a lot of extra damage. Time Rift. It'll hold the enemies in the air for 14 seconds and inflicts them with weakness. Now, because we're using the Pain Transfer mod, it's going to spread that damage across all of them. So it's good for CC and it's good for doing extra damage. Slow Trap. It will slow down your enemies, slow down their projectiles, and at the end of it, it'll refill your shield and your health bar. Now this one is interesting at the last boss of Trials because during that damage phase he does where he spins the axes everywhere, if you use this, this will actually stop the axes. So if you're tired of those axes, you don't want to deal with them, just stand in your slow trap for a bit and it'll make that phase a lot more bearable. Okay, here is the tree nodes. Obviously we're using the Harbinger because this is the tank tree path. The last node, probably the most important. Every activation of a deception skill grants you 50% shield. Obviously if you want to be tanky, that is really useful since we're only using deception skills. I did make a slight change from our last build. I branched off up here because of this node right here, which reduces the cooldown of your deception skills so you can spam them a little bit more often. Okay, here is the Pax Tree. I already explained this one in our last build video, but I'm gonna go over it really quickly. Triggerman increases your damage by 15% for each skill on cooldown, extra damage. Lies Deception, activating a deception skill grants you 15% shield every 1 second for 4 seconds. This helps with your tankiness obviously. Failsafe Protocol, when your health drops below 30%, grants you 50% shield and 20% damage mitigation for 3 seconds. You don't have a choice with this one, but this does help with your tankiness a little bit. Goes Beyond Understanding. I already explained this one like I said, but this one is really good. When this triggers, you get 200% extra damage when you hit an elite. It has a 25% chance of activating, but when it does trigger, that is a lot of extra damage. This alone, like, you can one-shot elites and bosses because of this one. And the next one is also really good, Meticulous Schemer. 200% of killing damage by tagged enemies is divided amongst the other enemies. This is very, very similar to the Pain Transfer mod, but again, if you trigger this on like a boss or something, there is a good chance that you can one-shot that boss. These two nodes alone are really good for damage. Okay, here is the Ascension Points I have so far. I'm going to be showing you the most important ones. The one that increases your health. The one that increases your anomaly damage. Now, I believe this one increases the damage that your mods do as well. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it increases the damage of your mods. Alright, the one that reduces your cooldown. The one that increases your damage to elites, the one that reduces the damage you take by elites, and the one that increases your resistance. I didn't choose the armor one because we already have so much armor that this one would be overkill. But yeah guys, that's basically it. Now, I know I said I was going to be doing a updated Trespasser build, and I still am going to be doing that, but I just wanted to share this build because honestly, it makes you feel like a god. This one is just so much fun in my opinion. Just going around, hip firing your pistol, just not being able to die. I don't know, it just feels really cool. But yeah guys, hope we have a good one, and I'll catch you on the flip side.